is telling the truth about what he says. Mix it up. Mix it up. If the man is telling the truth about what he said, mix it up.
I said, I'm glad for my Muslims here. We've got a lot of Muslims in this church. Muslims in this church.
I wear a mean dark pair of shades, and you can't see my eyes unless my head is bent.
I've joined Elijah Muhammad, but I'm not going to stand and look at somebody's color. I'm going to look at their actions. I talked to Elijah Muhammad.
Shit right here.
We saw it front page news here in the Los Angeles Times.
Yeah, Khaled, I see you.
The Ku Klux Klan is rising again.
Yeah.
Mix it up.
I mentioned the conspiracy between the Muslims and the right wing in this country. I know for a fact that there is a conspiracy between the Muslims and the Lincoln Rockwell Nazis and also the Ku Klux Klan. There is a conspiracy.
Mix it up.
Reverend and Mrs. Moon have brought the universal language of truth. Reverend and Mrs. Moon have brought the universal language of truth that can unite the whole human family.
Right.
I talked to Elijah Muhammad.
Why you wanna play on me? Why you wanna play games on me? Why you wanna play?
The Ku Klux Klan is rising again.
Mix it up.
Ku Klux Klan. Ku Klux Klan. Well, the Ku Klux Klan made a deal, or were trying to make a deal with Elijah Muhammad in 1960 in the home of Jeremiah X, the minister in Atlanta at that time, who was present as the minister in Philadelphia. They were trying to make a deal with him to make available to Elijah Muhammad a county, a size tract of land in Georgia or South Carolina.
In Alabama this week, a black Muslim group shut down its 5-month-old cattle farm near Asheville and moved cattle and equipment 140 miles to begin the operation anew near Utah. The story behind that move from Ed Rabel.
The black Muslims of St. Clair County, Alabama, are leaving after 5 months of white hate, hostility, and harassment directed at them. 30 of their cattle were killed last week by arsenic poisoning. The Muslims are moving their cattle to a farm in Greene County, Alabama, 140 miles away. They say they moved because of the hostility.
Do you condone the poisoning of the cattle?
Oh, sir, definitely I do not. The cows can't help being here.
But the Muslims could.
They sure can. They can go back where they came from.
We're trying to get out of here and go where people are civilized, where we are wanted.
Where can the black Muslims now go?
There are plenty of places we can go. We can go back to Georgia. Those people over there are friendly to it. We can go to South Alabama. We plan to go south from here and go where we think we can operate. There are plenty of places we can go. Everybody, all white people are not like these here.
Yes, I belong to a Christian church, and I told them I've got Muslims on my board. I belong to a Christian church, and they saw a whole breakfast full of Muslims, Jewish, and they had to take them. And I said, if you want me to say that Jesus Christ is the one we're going to look to in the past, no. Jesus Christ said that these things shall you do and greater. We're not going to look to the past. We're going to have our own liberation today. We're going to have our Messiah today. We're going to have our deliverance today. Today is our day of salvation.
This is why Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." Jesus of 2,000 years ago, my dear and beloved brothers and sisters, was not the Messiah. He was 2,000 years too soon.
Reverend and Mrs. Moon have brought the universal language of truth that can unite the whole human family.
The Unification Church of Reverend Sung Myung Moon had close connections to the KCIA, the Korean Central Intelligence Agency, since its creation by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. 4 of Moon's early leaders were Army officers with KCIA credentials, and Moon's most influential aide, Dr. Bo Hai Pak, was liaison between the CIA and the KCIA, making numerous trips to the NSA headquarters at Fort Meade, Maryland. Moon's church is fabulously rich, with at least 600 front groups. It purchased the Washington Times newspaper for over $1 billion. Moon has claimed that he is the reincarnation of Jesus, Buddha, and Mohammed. He preaches love, but attacks his critics mercilessly, and uses the terminology of violence and apocalyptic revelation. In March of 2004 in Washington, D.C., the Reverend Moon was crowned as the Prince of Peace in a ceremony at the Dirksen Senate Office Building in the presence of 86 U.S. congressmen and 26 UN ambassadors. The Cult Awareness Network was founded 2 decades ago in the wake of the mass suicides in Guyana that claimed the lives of 890 of Jim Jone's followers. The nonprofit national organization assisted the desperate loved ones of people caught up in the cult scene. The organizations targeted by CAN were the KKK, the Aryan Nations, dozens of obscure fundamentalist and evangelical Christian groups, the Church of Satan, the Moonies, followers of political extremist Lyndon LaRouche, and the Church of Scientology. An organized blizzard of lawsuits produced judgments totaling $5 million and led to CAN's financial ruin. In 1996, their logo, furniture, and phone number were auctioned off by a bankruptcy judge. Scientology lawyers took possession of 20 years' worth of CAN's highly sensitive case files containing information on thousands of people who had turned to CAN for help in rescuing their friends and relatives. Scientology is known for harassing its enemies and retaliating against suppressives, people who ridicule Scientology teachings. These teachings include L. Ron Hubbard's decree that humans are made up of clusters of spirits called Thetans, who were banished to Earth about 75 million years ago by an evil galactic ruler named Xenu. Hubbard was a pulp fiction writer who'd served in the Navy and hit it big in 1950 by coming up with the concept of Dianetics that he dubbed a modern science of mental health that remained at the core of Scientology practice. One of its staples is a simplified lie detector called an E-meter, which is supposed to measure electrical changes in the skin while subjects discuss intimate details of their lives. Hubbard claimed that unhappiness sprang from mental aberrations called engrams, and that counseling sessions with the E-meter could help rid them of them. Scientologists refer to the extensive and expensive process of clearing the mind in order for this to occur as auditing. But during the 1970s, the IRS conducted some auditing of its own and accused L. Ron Hubbard of skimming millions of dollars from the church, laundering it through dummy corporations, and stashing it in Swiss bank accounts. Although he died before the case was adjudicated, his wife and 10 other former church leaders went to prison in the early 1980s for infiltrating, burglarizing, and wiretapping dozens of private and government agencies in an attempt to block their investigations.
This brother brother's working on a project that he's working on Master Farad Muhammad, and I was sharing with him the picture that you had shown me with Brother Abdullah, and I told him that you had said the messenger introduced you to him as Master Farad Muhammad, and the brother wanted to ask you some questions about that.
All right, Sister Khalila, do you remember the actual date of that photograph? I can see, because I see you're very young in that photograph.
Yeah, the date would be, I would be guessing, would be, I was divorced from my at the time. So it was in my home. He stayed in my home.
All right, we'll move on. Maybe it'll come to you.
I was just thinking it'll be like 77.
Okay.
I think maybe we were divorced 78, 70, so it had to be. It was in the 70s.
Okay, somewhere in the
late
70s.
70s, early 80s.
Now, in that picture, there's two women in back of you, in back of the man. And who is the man?
The man himself?
Yeah, the man that you are presenting.
His name is Muhammad Abdullah.
And now, who is he supposed to be?
Well, he's Muhammad Abdullah.
Is he Farad Muhammad formally?
Well, I was introduced to him as that, but a lot of people don't believe it, but that's what I was introduced to him as. I can only go by what somebody tells me.
I understand.
And I only trusted one man, and that was Elijah Muhammad. So he said it, I believe it.
So Elijah Muhammad introduced you to this man?
Yes, sir.
And what was
I was introduced in his home with this man.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You were introduced in his home?
Yeah, I was introduced to him in Elijah Muhammad's home, not in my home.
Okay, so he was at Elijah Muhammad's home.
He was at his home.
And Elijah Muhammad said to you, "This is Master Farad Muhammad?"
That's what he said.
Now, what was your reaction when he told you that?
I was excited. I was elated, and I thought that was beautiful. But I wondered why his name was different when I saw him the second time. Well, I asked him why was it different. He said he changed it.
He changed it?
Because, he said he used his name then in America when he came here. That's what he used. And his real name was Muhammad Abdullah.
What was your former husband Muhammad Ali with you at the time?
No.
Okay.
I was divorced from Ali then.
Oh, I see. Now,
before when I met him, I wasn't even married to Ali.
You met him.
I was younger when I first met him.
When you first met Master Farad.
He just looked older. He just looked older.
So you met Master Farad on two occasions. When you were younger and sometime later.
But he adopted me as his granddaughter, so it wasn't like I met him a couple of times. I mean, he lived in my home. I went to his home, with his wife and his family.
So those women in back of him in that photograph, who are those women?
My daughter, Miriam, and my adopted daughter, Christine Gunasekara from Malaysia.